Breaking Up with Addiction is proudly supported by experts you can trust. Kindbridge Behavioral Health, safe, non-judgmental counseling just a tap away. Welcome to Breaking Up with Addiction. I'm Gwendolyn Boyd McGee, licensed professional clinical counselor, and we will be joined later by Coach Corinne Wright, certified executive coach. So listeners, last episode, we talked about the 3 pillars of recovery: roadblocks, connection, and accountability. For homework, we encourage you to reflect on what roadblocks you've encountered so far and how you've built connection. Well, today we want to build on that foundation because connection isn't just a pillar. It's the foundation that makes accountability possible. So let's dive in. Authentic connection is crucial in recovery. How to cultivate it and how it ties directly into the next step, which is accountability. We want to talk about self-awareness, a key skill that helps you to recognize what you need and in order to prepare to be accountable. Whether you're new in recovery or working to strengthen your journey, this episode will give you the tools and the mindset shifts to help keep you moving forward. So why does authentic connection matter so much? Well, connection actually combats isolation. And isolation is something that you definitely want to avoid. Social isolation and loneliness can have serious consequences. It can impact both our physical and our mental health. And studies have actually linked isolation to increased risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, dementia, anxiety, and depression. And this is all according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institute on Aging. It can also contribute to things like cognitive decline, reduced immune function, and even premature death. And in our society today, we are doing all kinds of things to try to, stay healthy and prolong our life. So, isolation is definitely something that is not going to contribute in a healthy way for that outcome. So let's look more into these dangers of isolation that I've been pointing out. Isolation is associated with higher blood pressure and an increased risk of heart disease and even stroke. It can contribute to the development of type 2 diabetes. And like I mentioned earlier about the loneliness and isolation, they are linked to things like becoming at higher risk of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. Isolation can negatively impact the immune system, making individuals more vulnerable to infections. And like I said, studies have shown that people who are socially isolated and who experience loneliness tend to not live as long as people who don't. Let's look at the mental health impacts of isolation. As I previously mentioned, depression and anxiety can really result from people who are lonely and who isolate. And isolation can impact cognitive function, including memory and attention. And something I really want to point out, when you socially isolate, it can increase the risk of suicidal thoughts and attempts. For those clients I see who do struggle with depressive symptoms, one thing that I consistently point out to them is that it is important that they avoid isolation. Because if you're already feeling depressed and then you're cutting yourself off from any social interaction, you can quickly, your symptoms can become exacerbated and you can quickly get into that state where it's much more difficult for you to come out of it. So, I mean, if that's something that is a challenge for you and you do experience depressive symptoms, it's important for you to do things on purpose, especially if you live alone. You want to make sure that you're on a regular basis, socializing with your coworkers, going to events with them, that you have friends that you can meet for coffee, or you can go out to a bar and, laugh and have a few drinks if that's permitted and you don't have alcohol use disorder. I just wanted to point that out. So my point is that it is important to be intentional and to have a pretty socially active schedule, and put these things on your calendar on purpose so that you can make sure that you're not isolating. Isolation also leads to patterns of disordered sleeping. It can lead to insomnia and other sleep problems. It can also increase stress and feelings of anger and frustration. It can make it harder to control emotions and manage behaviors. And all of these things can lead to aggressive behavior or even substance abuse. Let's take a look at authentic relationships and their importance. So actually, authentic relationships are crucial for emotional well-being because they provide safety and support. This allows individuals to actually feel seen, heard, and validated. These connections foster a sense of belonging. They reduce stress and can actually lead to improving your mental health. Authenticity in relationships is crucial, essential for fostering that trust, open communication, and the ability to be okay with being vulnerable. So let's take a more inside look to the emotional safety. Emotional safety actually fosters trust and it allows people to just be their true selves without the fear of judgment. And this safety allows for vulnerability, which leads to a deeper connection. And with those things, they all lead to just a better sense of well-being. So emotional support, the safety and support go hand in hand. And the emotional support is a source of the care, of being validated. This can help people cope with stress, navigate challenges, and just feel more secure. So what are the benefits of this authenticity? We talked about deeper connection, but it also leads to understanding, a deeper understanding, having more fulfilling and satisfying relationships because it promotes personal growth, resilience. And as individuals, you begin to feel much more comfortable taking risks and exploring new experiences. And we know that just introducing new experiences, new things into your life can be extremely rewarding and can lead to just a better life satisfaction. To build authentic relationships, it's important to practice open and honest communication. Be willing to be vulnerable and share your feelings, and also be willing to listen and understand others. Because vulnerability is the key component of an authentic relationship. It allows you to be your true self, but you must be willing also to include not only your strengths, but your weaknesses in order to truly build on that trust. Now that we've had an opportunity to look at some of the important factors to making a connection, I'd like to switch gears and go back to isolation and kind of explore it in regards to feelings of shame and stigma. Societal norms often value social connections and belonging, and feeling isolated can cause a person to have a sense of being outside of these norms. And all of this can ultimately lead them to feel inadequate or worthless, really. So these lack of social connections can actually be misinterpreted as a reflection of personal flaws. And so this is leading a person to self-blame, looking at themselves. Well, what's wrong with me? I'm not like everyone else. I'm not valued. Nobody wants to be around me anyway, right? So these individuals have this fear of judgment or being criticized for their isolation now. And this is just going to lead them to want to withdraw further and avoid social situations altogether. Family, friends, and other members of the community may not fully understand the experience of isolation, leading to a lack of empathy and support. And what is this going to do? It's going to push this person just further away. Social isolation can also limit opportunities for employment. I mean, just imagine someone who is struggling to connect with others socially. Can you imagine the difficulty and probably the nervousness that they feel during an interview? They may have lots of experience, great qualifications, references, but sometimes if you're not able to connect with a person during the interview, then a lot of times you don't get the job, despite your qualifications. The shame and stigma associated with isolation can also contribute to mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. And being in the cycle, of the isolation, the shame and the stigma, it can just further, like I said, further isolate people. And then they end up having, their symptoms get worse. It ends up being a worsening of their mental health. All right. It's time for some trivia, y'all. So the question is, shame as opposed to guilt tends to make people want to do what? So the options for the answer are A, seek opportunities to fix the situation. B, hide, disengage, and withdraw from others. C, apologize profusely to those they feel they've wronged. Or D, feel motivated to improve their behavior. So I will come back to you a little later with the correct answer and an explanation. Deep, meaningful bond with others go beyond just casual socializing. It's different when you have a deeper connection with someone. And in having these deep connections, we talked about it being so important for a foundation for well-being and good mental health, but it also enhances resilience. Meaningful bonds that provide emotional support provide like a framework for navigating life's difficulties and knowing that you're not going through these challenges alone, that you have other people that you do share a deep connection with who are there to encourage you, to support you. There may be good days and bad days, but they're there, for all of it. And it helps you to just feel more capable. It increases your self-efficacy. Knowing that you have a network of caring individuals that you can truly rely on, it actually enhances your emotional resilience and it helps to have more healthy coping skills. So how do these connections actually help? Your friend gets your joke. Your coworker offers Congrats. Your spouse hugs you hello. They are all helping you defeat stress and boost your well-being. In fact, Mental Health America found that 71% of people surveyed turn to friends or family in times of stress. So these connections are important. Research points to the benefits of social connection. In one compelling study, a key difference between very happy people and less happy people was good relationships. So we've talked about how loneliness can be associated with the higher risk of different things like stroke, heart attack, high blood pressure. So, and it affects both your mental and your physical health. So what are some ways that maybe you want to start creating connections? You got to start somewhere. You create a connection and then you work to build to get a deeper connection. Maybe it's you having a friend pick up your kids from school, or you hear someone say, I'm really sorry you're having such a tough time. Maybe it's being reminded that even the moodiest teenager will grow up. Or advice, there to give you advice to kind of help you navigate life's challenges. And validation, sharing values with others, can lead to a deeper connection. So I think it's time for the trivia answer. So I'll repeat the question. Shame, as opposed to guilt, tends to make people want to do what? So the correct answer is B. Hide, disengage, and withdraw from others. So shame is an emotion that focuses more on the self. It makes people feel fundamentally flawed or unworthy. And this can lead to a desire to hide or to retreat from social situations to avoid further potential judgment. But guilt, on the other hand, is about specific behaviors and often motivates individuals to take action to correct or apologize for what they did. Now I'll pass it to Coach Corinne to discuss cultivating awareness and connection as the bridge to accountability.
Thank you, Gwen. Let's talk about cultivating self-awareness in recovery. The importance of honest self-reflection in recovery cannot be overstated. It is one of the core disciplines that allow lasting change to take root. Here's a breakdown of why self-reflection matters and how it functions as a game changer. It builds self-awareness, giving you the ability to understand why it started, how it's been maintained, and it also helps you to better understand yourself. This works for me when I'm triggered. This does not work for me when I'm triggered. It shifts you from reaction to responsibility. Without reflection, people often stay stuck in reactive mode, blaming others, numbing pain, or avoiding hard truths. Self-reflection creates a space where you can pause, observe, and respond with ownership. Taking this pause is one of the hardest things to do when you're new to recovery. But once you can master navigating this space, you will have a much better grip on your recovery journey. This is something that I've seen time and time again with people new to recovery, putting that expectation on themselves that once they get the information, everything just falls into place like magic. But that's not how it happens. This is something that takes intentional effort daily, moment by moment within the day. So give yourself an opportunity to practice and own that practice. It helps you to track growth. You begin to notice your progress. Where you used to react with anger, you now breathe. Where you once isolated, you now reach out. Reflection helps you to celebrate small wins and adjust the course when needed. That part, adjusting the course when needed. Prepare to adjust the course when needed. It deepens emotional insight. Many people in recovery struggle with emotional identification. Honest self-reflection allows you to ask, what am I really feeling? And what do I actually need right now? It prepares you for accountability. You won't be accountable to others if you're not first honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest with yourself, what exactly is it that you're being accountable for? Reflection helps you to own your actions without shame, which makes it easier to receive feedback, stay committed, and rebuild trust. Here are some questions you can ask to help you see yourself. And actually seeing yourself is going to be in the answers. What did I learn about myself today? What did I feel triggered or strong about today? Am I showing up the way I want to? Cultivating self-awareness in recovery is achievable. We see it every day. People having aha moments, gaining greater understanding of themselves in their way. Everyone learns differently. What people get out of their recovery journey is very different than what someone else may get out of their recovery journey. The importance of honest self-reflection extends far beyond just knowing. Understanding how your feelings influence behavior is the next part of this, because now that you know your why, understanding how that translates into other parts of your life. How do those actions now show up and spill over? So if we take a look at understanding how feelings influence behavior, that could look like, let's say the feeling is shame after making a mistake at work. The unaware behavior could be that you isolate or skip a recovery meeting. You potentially use substance use or substance abuse. You decide that you want to quit, just different things that might come up. These are reactions. What's really happening is that you're on autopilot. You feel shame, but you haven't identified it clearly. Instead of processing that feeling, your brain searches for a way to escape it or to numb. Because you haven't reflected on the emotion, your behavior is automatic, and that's why it's called autopilot. So, and then it's driven by the need for quick relief. That's what it's all tied up for. It's like, if I just do this autopiloted response, I'll get to the next stage, even if you don't like that stage. But we're asking you to edit that stage. Throw a monkey wrench in the old process and give yourself that space. I give myself permission to take the space of a pause between trigger and action. That's something you can recite over and over and make it mean something to you when you say it. Autopilot is a common behavior in recovery, which is why understanding and navigating your emotions is a major part of recovery. But it all starts with cultivating self-awareness and not only noticing, but acknowledging your emotions. Self-awareness prepares you to take ownership of your actions. With honest self-reflection, you can recognize, I'm feeling shame because I messed up and I'm afraid of what others think. You name it without judgment and remind yourself, this mistake happened. Mistakes will happen. Then instead of numbing out, you choose the appropriate coping mechanism. The shift here is understanding your emotion, interrupting the automatic behavior, and choosing recovery-aligned actions. How do you recognize when you're ready for accountability? Accountability is not something that everyone is ready for. Some people know they don't want it right now. They don't want other people in their business. They don't want to be held accountable to anything by anyone. They don't want to have to answer to anything. And then there's some people who are in that gray area of they'll say, I want accountability, but they're not ready for the actions of accountability, of being held accountable. And then there's the people who are ready, genuinely ready. They're saying, hey, I need someone to hold me accountable, but are they ready as far as the work that they've done to prepare themselves to be held accountable? Or do they just want to rip a Band-Aid off and everything to just change? Regardless to where you are in there, what you need to sit with is, can I hold myself accountable? Can I practice holding myself accountable? The answer is yes, you can practice holding yourself accountable. And practicing holding yourself accountable is one thing you can do to prepare yourself for true accountability. Whether or not you do it perfect doesn't matter. It's the act of repeating something that you know needs to be done for your well-being. Now, these are a few ways to recognize if you're truly ready for accountability. You're tired of managing recovery alone. You've tried doing it solo, and while you've made some progress, you know you're hitting a ceiling. You start feeling the need for structure, feedback, and support. Another would be you want to be called higher, just not coddled. You're no longer afraid of the truth. You want someone to check in, ask the hard questions, and challenge your excuses with care. Another is that you're willing to be honest. Even when it's uncomfortable, you know that it's time to start practicing the characters that you used to have before this interrupted your life. You understand that accountability doesn't work if you hide. You're open to truth, not just about your wins, but about your slip-ups, your mindset, and your blind spots. Cultivating self-awareness starts with being honest with yourself, and it deepens your understanding of your true reality. Now, when we think about connection in general, connection can be the biggest bridge to accountability. There are people out there who don't have accountability partners in their personal lives because they may not have cultivated the types of connection to build that relationship, which is why we want to explore with you things that you can do to start getting your feet wet in that now. We want you to build the connections so that you can then coast yourself into an accountability relationship without so much extra hard work. It's not that you're walking into it saying, hey, I know I've never spoken to you about personal things, but can you hold me accountable? Versus having a nurtured relationship where someone understands your life or understands you and they've spoken to you, you've developed a connection, and this person can naturally be someone that you may feel more comfortable asking for accountability. Strong connections create safe space for accountability to thrive because they give you a relationship where honesty doesn't come with punishment. It comes with partnership. For example, you have someone in your life who understands your recovery journey and doesn't flinch with your truth being shared. Having this person can be an asset that allows you the space to say things like, I messed up, or I'm struggling today. That level of openness isn't possible with people who you may feel like a failure around. In a strong connection, you're not just being watched. You're being walked with. This is a person who's chosen to walk with you through your recovery journey and hold you accountable, holding you by the hand. That person doesn't just point out where you fell. They don't just remind you of who you were and what you did and what you're not capable of. They're here to remind you of what you can do and what you are capable of. And this makes you more likely to stay committed and to bounce back from setbacks and grow with clarity instead of shame. Now, we don't want you to look at your connections in your accountability circle as people who should enable the behavior that you're trying to change. We want you to see these people as people that you genuinely respect and respect their position as connection, accountability partner in your life for the journey that you're on. Mutual respect means Both people honor each other's boundaries, your voices, and your growth. It creates a two-way street where accountability doesn't feel like control. It feels more like collaboration. You're not being talked down to. You're being held up in these kinds of relationships. Together, trust that mutual respect makes accountability something you can lean into and not run from. I want to walk you through a reflection exercise here and now, just so you can gain some awareness in this moment. If you're in a space where you can pause for a few minutes, this moment is for you. Grab a journal or open a notes app or simply follow along. But we're going to start with a breath. I will count to 3 before I want you to take that breath. But in taking the breath, you will take a deep inhale through your nose, hold it for 3 seconds, and then release it slowly through your mouth. Let's take that breath. 1, 2, 3. Deep inhale through your nose. Hold it. 2, 3. And now release it slowly through your mouth. Right now, you don't have to fix anything. You just need to be honest. Think about the last 24 hours. What's one emotion that really stood out for you? Maybe it was shame, frustration, peace, or exhaustion. Try to name it. Not judge it, just to name it. Now pause and think about, this is the emotion I felt today. And if you're not sure what it was, ask yourself, what was I trying to escape, avoid, or fix? That will usually point you to the root of the emotion. Now, ask yourself, what did I do in response to that emotion? Answer that question. Did I isolate? Did I reach out? Did I numb out with a habit I'm trying to break? Or did I choose something that aligned with who I am becoming? We got to learn to interrupt that autopilot, but right now, you're just being aware. You're building your awareness, raising your awareness. Now imagine a do-over. If you could go back and respond with awareness, how would you interrupt that autopilot? What's one recovery-aligned action you could have taken instead? Deep breathing, calling someone, writing the thoughts down, taking a walk, listening to or reciting affirmations. This is the moment we practice the pause. Not to shame ourselves, but to grow. Say this out loud or write it down. I am learning how to lead myself with truth, not fear. I am not stuck. I am practicing new patterns. Let that be your reset. Let that be your evidence that healing is happening. And when you reflect, you don't have to do it for an hour to grow. 5 minutes of honesty can change the whole direction of your day. The next time you feel like you're on emotional autopilot, giving yourself that pause is going to be what breaks the cycle. This is a version of you rebuilding. Now, for homework, we would like for you to find one person you'd like to connect with. Who do you want to genuinely build a connection with? Take one action step to build that connection. In tandem with that, for homework, reflect on any triggering emotion that occurs this week. As you move about to seek out who you would like to build a genuine connection with, mind your feelings. Sit with it. Reflect on them. Engage. Recovery is a journey that no one should take alone, and connection is the foundation that holds everything up. It's what makes accountability not only possible, but sustainable. Build that foundation with intention and care, and watch how your recovery grows stronger and more resilient day by day. Addiction doesn't define you, and breaking up with addiction doesn't have to be a solo mission. Kindbridge Behavioral Health offers safe, non-judgmental support anytime from anywhere. Visit kindbridge.com/appointments and start getting the help you deserve today.